I have been wanting to make this recap video for so long, mainly because I still am kind of in disbelief that this year actually happened, but I was really looking forward to revisiting all of the amazing experiences that I've had over this last year. A quick history, in 2023, I decided to pick up a second full-time job. I worked for a year and a half to save up as much money as I possibly could because I sold everything I owned except for what I carry with me. And in January of this year, I boarded a one-way flight to Thailand, and I have been nomadic ever since. So with this recap video, I decided to break it up into 3 sections. So the first section, I want to go over kind of where I've been this whole year from January to now, end of December. Second, I want to go over my superlatives and my awards. So I've been keeping track of quite a few stats just for myself that I've found interesting that I want to share with you, and also kind of go over like my best of, worst of experiences and other things. And then third, I want to close out with going over, did I reach my goals that I set for myself at the beginning of the year, and also kind of explain what's coming next. I backpacked Southeast Asia for the first 5 months of this year and made it to 5 new countries. And the crazy thing was I only had the first 3 nights planned, and that was it. I really wanted to experience what it was like to feel when it was time for me to move on to another place. I wanted to learn as I went and kind of move with whatever felt right. And that's exactly what I did, and I was so pleasantly surprised by how much fun I had and how well it turned out. After 5 months in Southeast Asia, I headed to Hawaii for a couple of weeks for a dog sit, and then headed to Utah for my birthday celebration. This was always a plan. I always wanted to go back to Utah to spend my birthday with my family. And then after that, I headed out on an adventure I could never have anticipated: full-time pet sitting. So here I sit in Switzerland at the end of December, the end of my year, having visited 7 new countries and 10 new to me states, obviously revisiting a few that I've visited before. But again, I never anticipated going to all these places, which is just so crazy to me to think that this is how the year had transpired. Now to go over my superlatives, which I actually have on my phone because there are so many. So first of all, transportation. I thought it would be fun to track all the methods of transportation I used this year, getting myself from place to place. Now, this does not include day trips, exploring new areas. This is transportation moving me from one place to another with my luggage, essentially. So I took 2 ferries to and from the island of Koh Tao where I did my scuba. I took 24 buses. This includes overnight and also buses in the US, which I actually didn't anticipate experiencing, but it wasn't all that bad. Now this one surprised me. I've only been on 4 trains, and this is moving me again from place to place. Obviously I took trains in the cities and as I'm exploring areas. So I took 1 train in Vietnam, 2 in the UK, and then 1 in Switzerland. So far, I will be taking more, but that's for next year. Now this is the one that got me so excited, is my flights. So I went on 29 different flights on 11 different airlines to 31 different airports for 42,239 total miles, which is almost twice around the equator. Next superlative needs a little bit of an introduction. So I have always been wanting to read more, but I have a hard time sitting down and actually opening a book and reading. And so I downloaded the Audible app, bought quite a few books, and then that kind of became my entertainment when I was traveling from place to place and also when I was walking around new cities. So these are all of the books that I read this year, which is still kind of insane that I was able to read all of these. I did manage to switch up the genre because I didn't want to get bored. So my favorite book that I read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Amazing. Highly recommend it. I'll put a link to it down below. Least favorite book, unfortunately, Fourth Wing. I'm just not a fan of that style. I don't know. So a couple other random superlatives. I attended 23 different church congregations in 6 different countries. Some of these I visited more than once just because I was in a location long enough to go 2 or 3 times in a row, but a lot of these places, English was not the main language. So that was very exciting and very interesting to experience. This is what kind of started it all. I follow some YouTubers who decided to start tracking how many different beds they slept in during their year of travel or during their time that they were traveling. And I thought that would be kind of fun to do since, like I mentioned, I only had the first 3 nights planned when I got to Thailand. So in total, I slept in 63 different beds, which totals out to 5.8 nights per bed. Now, I also want to point out that there were times where I was in one spot for, 4 weeks. So it's still kind of crazy to think about it. So I actually kept the list of all the beds that I've slept in. It's crazy. But needless to say, I've gotten really good at being able to sleep kind of anywhere. Now on to the awards. This has probably been my favorite thing to keep track of. These are my foodie awards because you can't travel the places that I've been and not have experienced amazing and interesting culinary events. Let's just put it that way. So we're gonna Oreo this with good, bad, good. So I wanna go over top 9 food experiences. So I count food experiences differently than best thing I've ever eaten. Food experience is the overall feel with it. So it's the experience itself, the build up to it, a little bit more romantic than just, this was absolutely delicious. And the way I've categorized these literally are just chronologically because there's no way I could rank them in any other way. So the first one is in Thailand. Now, Chiang Mai, Thailand is known as the foodie capital of Thailand. And I went to this meetup with a group that I met on Facebook, and we decided to go to this place called Big Mukata, which is like a hot pot hibachi style restaurant. Picture this, I'm kind of kicking myself because I didn't get any footage from it, but picture this big open air warehouse. There's tons of picnic tables everywhere. Each picnic table has a hot pot and also a little hibachi grill. And then in the middle of this whole area, there's an island full of produce, live seafood that you can catch yourself, different types of meats, all sorts of things that you can grill or cook somehow. And you just go and you get all the raw ingredients, take it to your place, pick your sauces, your spices, and you cook it for yourself at your table. And it was one of those experiences where I'd only been in Asia for a few, maybe a couple of weeks. I think this was maybe week 2 or 3. I was just having the time of my life. I was experiencing so many things, and I think I was just riding on such a high that it became this pinnacle of an experience that I've remembered. Next one, I took a cooking class in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I ended up going to this place where they took you to a farm. You got to go pick your own ingredients, learn how to make a whole bunch of different things. Everything was delicious. It was a huge experience. It was just amazing. When I got to Singapore, one of the things I was really interested in doing is checking out these very famous neighborhoods, and I happened to be staying next to Little India. The day that I got to go experience Little India, it was actually a very rainy day. Singapore was having a monsoon. It was a whole thing. I remember running around, checking all these places out. At the very end, I was thinking, man, I'm kind of hungry, but I was trying to save money because I was still kind of at the beginning of my trip. I wanted to be as money conscious as possible. So I was doing really good at not eating out, only eating what I had at home. And I thought, you know what, I'm in Little India. Let me just pop into a corner shop real quick and just kind of see what they have. And it was this little corner restaurant. I walk in and they have, all the food on display, and they've got people in the back behind the glass cooking, and it just looked really good, but I didn't know what any of it was. And the gentleman working was really sweet. He asked if I wanted breakfast, and I just thought, you know what? Sure. Even though I was trying to save money, I didn't want to deprive myself of certain things. And I just felt like I should say yes to this guy. And I said, please, I don't know what any of this is. Please put together a breakfast for me. And he did just that. Not only did he put together a tray full of delicious looking food, he took me out to one of the tables and had me sitting on the corner, covered from the rain, facing outward so I could watch everybody kind of running by in the rain. He explained how to eat everything, and it was so good. And when I think back to my time in Singapore, this is one of those memories. And that's why it's a food experience, not like the best thing I've ever eaten, because it was the experience of I'm soaking wet, but I'm sitting on this cute little corner restaurant in Little India in Singapore, having breakfast, eating things that I didn't really know what they were, and just having the best time and feeling so at peace and so happy. And that was the key. That's why it made it onto this list. Next food experience, you can't talk about being in Southeast Asia, particularly in Singapore, without mentioning durian. One of my favorite things to do is go on food tours, and I have a few more that are on this list as well. I ended up doing a food tour in Singapore in Chinatown. It was a great tour. I didn't think that my guide liked me very much because I do know a lot about food and food history, and she didn't like that I kind of knew all of her answers. At the end of the tour, she did ask, do we have any questions? Can she help us with anything? And I thought, you know what? I see places you can buy durian all over, but I don't know how to pick anything out. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's a good price. So I just asked her, I was like, hey, I'm really interested in trying durian. Can you help me out? And she took me to a stand, helped me buy some, and then she wanted to record my reaction and be there when I tried it for the first time. And with durian, you can't take it on buses, public transportations. It's not allowed in most buildings. So you literally kind of have to eat it outside. And so she came and sat with me and I tried durian for the first time. I don't want to say it was the best thing I've ever had. Again, that's why it's on this list, but it wasn't bad at all. It did taste kind of like an oniony custard. I can still kind of taste it. You eat it with gloves so it doesn't get on your skin. And it was just such a fun experience, sitting here thinking, I'm in Chinatown in Singapore eating durian for the first time. Life is good. Okay, my next experience is another food tour. I took food tours as often as I could. One, because they were a little bit cheaper in Southeast Asia, and two, there's just so many different types of food in the region that I just didn't even know existed. And so it was really exciting for me to learn and to experience and obviously taste yummy foods. But one of the tours that I went on, it's called the XO Food Tour in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Now this food tour is amazing because you are paired with the woman who works for the company and you are on the back of her motorbike and she drives you around to all these different places. Now obviously you're with a group and so you're kind of this, this force that goes out to these different locations. One of the best parts about this is when you are on a food tour and you're on a walking food tour, you're kind of limited to a certain area. Unless the food tour is longer and provides you with transportation, you're kind of, sequestered to one area. But when you're on the back of a motorbike, you can kind of go everywhere. So we went to a bunch of different districts in Ho Chi Minh City, places that I wouldn't have gotten to on my own. I wouldn't have known to go to. And we went to all these different places, but in between, we also stopped and did a little bit of sightseeing. They said it's so that we could digest our food, so we'd get hungry before our next stop. My guide was amazing. We had so much fun. This next top food experience, I actually had forgotten about until I was going through trying to find footage for this video, and I had to add it in because it was so much fun. Towards the end of my trip, I found myself in the north of Vietnam in a town called Sapa. Beautiful location, terraced rice fields, kind of gives Bali a little bit. You're up in the clouds. I was at this homestay. It was one of those places that exists in your dreams, and then when you see it in real life, you kind of have to pinch yourself, how did this happen? I was staying on the side of a mountain for $11 a night in my own private bungalow. There was only two of us staying there, and our host couldn't say either of our names. My name is Rachelle. Her name is Michelle. He called us both Chelly, which was close, but he had invited both of us to a cooking class that he was going to be doing with his brother. Of course, I said yes. I canceled whatever plans I had and was like, yes, I am going to be doing that. That sounds like something amazing. It was the funniest thing because, we paid him I don't know, I think it was $10 or $15, which is a lot of money. But when you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, things cost a little bit more. He invited us into the kitchen, which is actually it was a pretty big area at the bottom of the house. And he and his brother were cooking and they kind of just had us helping with little things, but then they kind of took over. Michelle and I were frying fish, we were frying some spring rolls, but they kind of did everything else. And it turned into this hilarious experience where our host speaks pretty broken English. His daughter was practicing her English and nobody else spoke English. But we're at this table with a ton of food and a ton of Vietnamese people that are all in the same family, just laughing and having the best time on the side of a mountain. The food was delicious. It wasn't exactly a cooking class. We were just kind of helping out in the kitchen, but I wouldn't have traded that for anything. It's one of those experiences that you can't plan for, and because it's something super local, it's always going to be one of the best things you ever do. So those are all of my top food experiences outside the US. These last 3 are in the US, and I'm pretty excited about it because sometimes it's harder to find really good experiences closer to home because we've done a lot of things, we're familiar with it. There's not a lot of like new and exciting things. For my birthday, because I wanted to go back to Utah and spend my birthday with my family, I didn't want to party. I didn't really want to do a whole lot, but I had this dream, and I'm sure you've seen it on social media, of people who go around on their birthdays and just collect free stuff. So I thought, you know what? This seems like the perfect time to do that. So the night before my birthday, I did a ton of research and found all these places where you could, if you sign up for like their loyalty program to like download their apps, you can get free stuff for your birthday. Most of it was food. Most of it was like dessert, sweet stuff, but it was so much fun. So I took my mom with me and we drove all over getting all sorts of free food. Got a couple like non-food things, but it was just so much fun because this is something that, you know, I'd seen people doing online. You always think, oh, that'd be nice. I never really do it. I did it. It was phenomenal. Second to last one is kind of oxymoronic because the food itself wasn't like the best that I'd had, but it was the whole experience that put it onto this list. So I spent the month of July in Georgia, like an hour outside of Atlanta, kind of really in the country. I had this dream, and I don't know where it came from. Maybe from watching too much like diners, drive-ins and dives, but I had this idea that I was gonna find this random barbecue place in the middle of nowhere. It was gonna be on a street corner. There were gonna be smoking pits outside, and it was gonna have just the yummiest food. This was just kind of on the forefront of my mind the entire time I was there. And because I'd been there for about a month, I had made some friends, and so I wanted to meet this one friend for dinner, and I found through Google, really, just kind of looking in the middle of nowhere, found this cute little barbecue spot literally in a town that had no stoplights. It had like a flashing yellow at an intersection, so in place of a stop sign, pull up, it's just what I expected. It's this cute little barbecue shack. It had the smoking pits just behind it, dirt parking lot. We pull up. Food was pretty good. It wasn't the best, but it was enough to satisfy that, you know, romantic idea that I had about finding this barbecue spot in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. So this last top food experience that I had was actually in Cleveland, and it was in Little Italy, this cute little restaurant that I found where everything was homemade, everything was owned and operated by family members. Again, in the middle of Little Italy, you have the music playing, you have, you know, kind of the older style like feeling of decorations. It's not new, it's not modern, it's home style, it's family. I think it's called Mama Santa's. It was everything I had wanted. I had walked to this place from a concert. It took me about 30 minutes. And you know when you're going into Little Italy, because there's Italian flags around every, you know, street light, there's murals on the wall, and you can start to just smell pasta and cheese and pastries. And it was everything that I had dreamt that it was gonna be. Walking in, you know, it's a little bit dimly lit. They take me back to this room. You know, there's a couple girls sitting next to me who happened to be friends of the family, and so all of the owners would come by and say hello. And then, you know, the lady that was serving me, I guess she had been there for decades and she knew everybody, and there was just something about her. It was just so much fun. And, you know, I ordered lasagna, which is one of my favorite foods, and she said, you know, it's gonna take a while because, you know, they make it by hand. And I said, you know, take your time. That is exactly what I need right now. So this was one of those experiences where, you know, the food was also top notch. And of course, afterwards I went across the street and got a cannoli, but it was phenomenal. Okay, so those are the top, you know, 9 food experiences that I had this whole year. Now let's kind of like bring us back down to reality, because I did have some like bruisers. There were some things that I ate that just weren't good. I've narrowed it down to 4 because although, you know, there were some things that weren't the best, most things were edible that I could enjoy, I could finish. These 4 things I couldn't. I have footage from 2 of them because I was thinking more about it when I added these to my list of superlatives. I am gonna be a little bit vague about some of them because I don't want to out anybody. The first thing was this undercooked creamy omelet thing. It was like an egg roll-up that I got from a night market in Chiang Mai in kind of like a trendy area. It was across the street from the hostel I was staying at. They were having kind of like this food festival. It was around Chinese New Year, I think. And I was just really wanting to try all these things. And this was one of those stands that had a huge line of people. So I thought, it's gonna be good, right? I think I tried 2 bites. The texture was off. The flavor was kind of, it was interesting. It didn't feel good. And it was one of those times where I actually bought something I could not finish and I threw it away, which is sad. Good part is most things in Southeast Asia don't cost that much. So I did go and I think I got some like crispy pork belly or something to wash it down. The next thing that I ate that I couldn't finish, actually, it was one of the few times where I did feel sick afterwards. It was another night market. This time I was in Bangkok, and I found this stall that was selling these gyoza, which are basically dumplings that are pan fried on one side. They're really good. It was translated into being chive filled, so like green onion. So I thought, oh, that actually sounds really good. Like I love dumplings, I love gyoza. I love green onions, I love chives, so it sounded really good, right? No, it was the entire thing. So it was just a dumpling of chives. Like there was nothing else in it. So think of, like spicy grass clippings kind of enclosed in this dumpling thing, pan fried. So there was no moisture to it. There was no real flavor to it. And then because there was no moisture in it, it was just dry. And so it literally felt like I was eating grass. So this next worst thing I ever ate happened to be in Kuala Lumpur. I met a bunch of people at my hostel and we decided to go check out the Batu Caves. And then afterwards, we decided to go to this little market or street fair to go get some lunch. And we found this restaurant. It was really interesting because a lot of the people that we were with had food restrictions. So some people couldn't have certain things for allergies, religion, ethics, what have you. So trying to find a place that kind of satisfied everybody's requirements was a little challenging. That being said, I did pick this food item. It's called a roti john. And it basically looked like a big sandwich. It wasn't my first choice on the menu because my first choice was sold out. It fell apart. The flavor was absolutely terrible. I could not finish it. I think I had 2 or 3 bites, and then a couple other people tried bites of it as well, just to kind of, give a courtesy taste to make sure I wasn't going crazy, and it was not good. It was surprisingly sweet, but I couldn't figure out what on it was making it sweet. And this last one, I'm gonna be a little vague on it, but I was at one of my hostels in Southeast Asia. And one of their claims to fame was they had a guy that would come in, I think on a weekly basis, and in the back there was this huge pizza oven. He would make this huge pizza. Like we're talking, if you're from Utah, the largest pizza from the pie, bigger than that. Like this thing was massive. Everybody was talking about how good this pizza was, and everybody was asking, are you gonna be here for this pizza? Are you gonna try the pizza? And I was like, so I wasn't super excited. It was a little expensive too. I mean, like a couple dollars expensive, but that's still a lot for Southeast Asia. But I thought, you know what? I'm here. It's easy. Everybody's talking about it. It's pizza. How bad can it be? It was bad. The worst part was the guy cooking it was so proud of himself for cooking this pizza because, he did it all the time and it was something that he had loved doing and it was his passion. I wasn't going to spit it out. And he was there watching me eat this pizza. It was dry. It had no flavor. It wasn't seasoned. Something was wrong with the sauce. I don't know what it was. Look, everybody is their own kind of like pizza snob. I've been on pizza tours. All right, I went on a pizza tour when I was in Chicago. I talked with a guy who went to conventions specifically for tomato sauce. So I do like to think I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. That was the hardest time I've had finishing a piece of pizza. I am scarred from this pizza. So, all right, I got the negative out of the way. Now it's time for the best thing I ever ate. So there are 14 items on this list because I went to a lot of places and I ate a lot of really, really good food. But these are the things that when I reminisce about my time, these are the things that I talk about. These are in chronological order. They're not ranked any other way. First thing, papaya salad. I had papaya salad, I think maybe one time before I'd been to Southeast Asia. I was in my first hostel in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and there was a restaurant around the corner that I frequented daily and had a papaya salad for lunch every single day. It was like $1. Every papaya salad that I've had since kind of had to measure up to that, and I haven't found one better than that. Second, I had my very first khao soi. Now, khao soi is kind of like northern Thailand's curry noodle dish. There's a restaurant, it's pretty popular, called Khao Soi Mae Sai. Absolutely phenomenal. Bowl of khao soi changed my life. Last one, also in Chiang Mai. There are lots of night markets. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot of food everywhere. But this one is where I discovered Burmese barbecue. Now, Burma, Myanmar barbecue is very popular. It's basically a small hibachi grill where you go along and you get a basket and you pick out skewers that have vegetables, all sorts of produce, meats, proteins on their skewers. You put them in your basket, you hand them to the people there so they can cook them, put spices and salt sauces on it, and it is the best thing. Anything cooked over an open grill is the best. Next, I was in Sukhothai, which is in the center of Thailand, and it was this really ancient city where I got to go bike ride along these temples, and there was a street market one night. I got dinner there, and there were these coconut pancakes that had like toppings in them, but I remember going to the stall, getting these pancakes that I'd seen before in other places. This is the first time I had it. Ended up sitting next to a canal with a bunch of locals eating these pancakes, and they were so good. They were like kind of sweet. Oh, phenomenal. They're kind of fun thing that I had in Bangkok. The next one were these cream puffs. I didn't expect to have like delicate pastries in Thailand and have that be at the top of my list of like the best things ever. But it was the same market that I had had those chive gyozas. Just a few stands later, I found this girl making these tiny little cream puffs. I ate them all like in 2 seconds. They were just that good. Again, I don't think I had them long enough to take a picture of them, but they were delicious. Next thing I had that I loved was, it's actually kind of a funny story. I love football, and I was a little sad that I was gonna be in Thailand. I mean, not sad, but I knew that I was gonna be in Thailand during the Super Bowl, so I just wasn't even really thinking about it. But I was going to church one Sunday, and I saw this place advertising chicken wings. So I went back during the week, and they had these amazing garlic soy fried chicken wings. And they were so good. They were sticky, there was the right amount of crunch, and they also happened to be playing a rerun of the Super Bowl, so I got to watch my American football while eating wings, so it was delicious. I did go back a few times, and I learned that they delivered, so I had it delivered to my hostel a few times. It was fantastic. Next one, we're going to travel to the island of Koh Tao, and it's actually kind of a funny story. So I was in Koh Tao for scuba school. It was raining. I went to this one, I think it was a Burmese restaurant, and they had this delicious coconut chicken noodle soup. And it's kind of similar to the cow soy, but with a coconut broth. It was divine. The right amount of spice, the right amount of toppings that you can put on it. And I took this really aesthetic looking picture of it to upload to Google to review it, because I think they were giving you like a discount if you would review the restaurant and leave pictures. Anyway, that picture has been viewed over 5,000 times, so I like to think that I'm giving this place a little bit of business because their soup was delicious. This next one is it's not embarrassing, but it's kind of funny because you go to different places in the world, and you don't expect to see certain things. Like I didn't expect to see pizza in this one place, but this took the cake. So I was in Siem Reap in Cambodia, and I was getting ready to go check out Angkor Wat temples, and there happened to be this New York bagel shop around the corner from the hostel, and I was looking at reviews. The menu seemed pretty good. The prices were pretty cheap, so I thought, I'll just go check it out. Like, bagel sounds really, really good. It was one of the best bagels I've ever had. I had a bagel sandwich. I think I went back every day to go get a bagel because it was like $2 for a bagel and a water bagel sandwich, like an actual good bagel sandwich. Oh, so good. But it's just kind of funny that one of the best bagels that I've had is in Cambodia. Skipping ahead, we have made it to Vietnam. So one of my favorite things that I ever ate in Vietnam was actually in Hoi An, in the kind of the central part of Vietnam, and it's called bún chả. Noodles and a soup with meatballs, and it's kind of sweetened with like carrots and different root veggies, and there's lots of herbs you put on it, so every bite is essentially different. It was so good. Now these next couple ones are in the States. Again, I've had a lot of good food in the States. These are just the ones that stood out. So I was in Madison, Wisconsin. This was my first stop on my full-time pet sitting adventure. Again, Madison, Wisconsin. I was there in the summer, so I went to the farmer's market around the capital, and Wisconsin is very famous for cheese, and I found a stand that was selling smoked cheese, and they had this smoked bacon flavored cheese. So there was bacon in the cheese, and of course, need I say more? Bacon, cheese, delicious. Next stop, we're gonna go to Cleveland, Ohio again. Who knew? Cleveland, they've got good food there. The best ice cream I think I've ever had was in Cleveland. It's this chain called Mitchell's. It was down the street from where I was staying. I was watching Two Cats, and I was going to dinner at this place, and I saw Mitchell's ice cream on my way back and thought, you know what? I could really go for some ice cream right now. It's a hot day. Let's try it out. My favorite ice cream is mint chocolate chip, and it's really difficult to find a good mint chocolate chip because it's either too minty or the chocolate is too hard or it's too green. It just looks weird. This had the best of both worlds. It was, I don't have pictures of it. I don't know why, but it was the best mint chocolate chip ice cream I've ever had. The right amount of mint. The chocolate was not too hard. It was kind of like ribboned throughout, but almost fudgy. Went back a few times. I could go for some right now. I had 2 sits back to back in Pennsylvania, and my host from Pittsburgh was super kind and drove me about halfway to my next one, where her sister then met us and drove me the rest of the way. And our stopping point was this place called Devil's Barbecue in Brookville, Pennsylvania. They have the best tater tots I have ever had. They were seasoned just to the T. They were crispy without being too greasy, and they had tons of dipping options. Oh, those tots were amazing. Head back out of the country real quick, and we're gonna go to Scotland, to Edinburgh. So I had done a food tour in Edinburgh. It was amazing. Yes, I had haggis, fantastic. After the food tour, I asked my guide any recommendations for my last dinner, my last meal in Scotland before I headed to Northern Ireland. And he recommended this place called the Steak and Mussel Bar in Edinburgh, in the Old Town. And the mussels that I had there, I was not a mussel fan. I'd had mussels before, I guess I just didn't have them done properly, because these ones were soft, they were succulent. That's a terrible word, but I'm talking about food, so it counts. They were succulent, they were flavored so nicely, and I had basically a bowl full of mussels with this garlic butter sauce. Oh, take me back. The last best thing I ate was in Omaha, Nebraska. I went to this one restaurant called Muchachos, and I had loaded mac and cheese with brisket. Need I say more? The cheese was great. It was a ton of food. It was seasoned well. There were so many different toppings on it. The brisket was smoked to perfection, and it wasn't that expensive either. So those are the 14 best things I had all year. Of course, there's a ton. I had a ton of good food this year. That's undeniable. I went on so many different food tours. I experienced so many things for the first time. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but sometimes there's just certain things that stick out, and these were the ones that stuck out. Again, when I reminisce about places I've gone and the things that I've done and what I've eaten, these are the things that come to the front of my mind. Okay, we're almost done. I have a couple more awards. My favorite new skill, riding a scooter. Yes, riding a scooter sounds easy, and it is. It really is easy, but when you're by yourself in a foreign place, things can just seem a little harder than normal. Logistically, things can be a nightmare. Your safety becomes a bigger concern, but having the courage to learn to ride a scooter in Southeast Asia was a game changer. It opened so many doors for me. I miss it. My most proud moment: getting scuba certified. I love the fact that I can honestly say I am a great example of you're never too old to learn new things. Getting scuba certified, that was awesome. I did my open water and my advanced open water. Favorite tour. I have gone on so many different tours that it was actually really, really hard to kind of narrow this down. But my top tour that I did, and it was the pinnacle of my whole Southeast Asia experience, was my Hajang Loop tour. I do have a whole video about it. I'll leave a link for it down below. Last award I'm going to give is for my favorite accommodations, because like I mentioned, I stayed in 63 of them, including people's homes, including hostels, including modes of transportation. So I want to give out an honorable mention. My favorite accommodation is the Old Quarter View Hostel in Hanoi in northern Vietnam. This place was central. It was a pretty good price. It was close to a lot of food options. It was close to a lot of public transportation. I loved the vibe in it. I loved how comfortable the beds were, and it had a really good common area. Also, it was really good at helping you book tours, which is where I booked my Hajang Loop tour. Third place is the Golden Rose Hotel in Da Nang, Vietnam. Now, Da Nang is known for being a beach city. It also has those like hands that are holding up the bridge that I didn't want to spend the money on to go see. It was at this point where I had been staying in hostels. I'd been staying in dorm rooms with anywhere from 4 to 20 other people, sharing bathrooms with everyone. I was ready to have my own space, and I had just been staying in a hostel where there were no curtains on the bed, so we literally had no privacy. And I decided I wanted to have a few nights to myself, and so found this place through Instagram, and for $11 a night, I had a suite all to myself. Second place, we're gonna go back to Cambodia, to Siem Reap, to central Cambodia. I stayed in a hostel called Lub D. It's like the weirdest name ever, but it's a massive hostel. It's geared towards a younger crowd, but I loved how the rooms were set up. I was in a dorm, but instead of having bunk beds, they were actually built into the wall. So I had a staircase going up to my upper bunk. There was tons of space where you could actually like open up your suitcase and not worry about being in anybody's way. There were lockers that were big enough for me to roll my large suitcase into. Tons of bathrooms, tons of showers. They had a huge huge pool. It was very centrally located as well. So it wasn't on the main drag of Pub Street, but within walking distance. And it was also very new. So it was still really nice. And again, another place where you could book a lot of tours through. My number one accommodation that I stayed in is in Krabi, Thailand, in southwestern Thailand. It's called the Play Postal. It was a little bit more expensive. This place was about $15 a night. It was kind of like a capsule hotel style. The bed was huge. Each bed had a TV with like Netflix and stuff. I actually never turned the TV on. It was just really cool that they had it. They provided all sorts of amenities for you. The bathrooms were really clean and huge. The toilets and the showers were in separate like closed off areas so that it wasn't like weird and gross. It was also set in a neighborhood, so it had a different vibe to it. I also meant that the food in those areas was a lot cheaper and a lot more local. As I've been going back, I've been trying to like think about, did I have a worst accommodation that I stayed in? Nothing's coming to mind, which is probably a good thing because that means that if there was a worst one, I've kind of like blocked it from my memory. So that does it for my awards. I have a lot more detailed information about my experiences in all of my YouTube videos. So the ones that I've mentioned will be linked down below if you want to learn a little bit more about those. The last thing I want to talk about is, did I reach my goals? So I actually went back to the first video I made announcing that I was going on this gap year and watched like what goals I had set for myself. It was really interesting because I set three main goals that I was able to share. So the first one was I wanted to slow down and relax. I did that. It honestly, this is something that I've talked about with other people. It took me a long time to get to that place where I could relax because I had been so regimented. My life had been so scheduled that it took me quite a few weeks before I was able to like not have everything planned out to the T. And I was actually able to go to the beach and, enjoy where I was, which was good. It was sad that it took me that long, but that kind of shows you kind of like how stressed I was and how high strung I'd been for the last year and a half, which I kind of had to be. Next one I want to talk about was having deeper conversations. Yes, you kind of have to when you travel out of the States. So having deep conversations was actually the first goal that I actually achieved when I went to Southeast Asia, because as soon as you leave the country, the first question people ask you when they find out that you are American is about politics. They will ask you who you voted for, what you think of what's going on, and what your political stance is. I get very comfortable very fast with my political stance. I had to get very comfortable with explain my thought process, and in so doing was able to work on that skill again of having deep conversations. The last goal that I wanted to reach was I wanted to establish healthier habits. And in my video, I went through, my thought process of you can establish healthier habits wherever you are. You don't have to go to the other side of the world to do that. Sometimes it's easier because it pulls you out of your routine. It pulls you away from the familiar. So you can't fall back into certain bad habits. And so being on the other side of the world forced me to look at my habits a little bit differently. I was more active. I was eating healthier. I was spending less time on social media because I was in a new place where I had to walk everywhere, where I was sweating every day, where, restaurants don't have a lot of refrigeration options. So the food you were eating was pretty fresh and not ultra processed. I found that as I traveled around more and had to reestablish myself in different places pretty frequently, it was harder to maintain certain habits. Fortunately, when I was in Southeast Asia, I was walking everywhere. And when I came back to the States, I was worried that I wasn't going to be as physically active. The cool thing about pet sitting is I have to take dogs on walks every day, multiple times a day. And I'm still walking places. Like I have to walk. If I want to catch the bus, it's a 5-minute walk. If I miss the bus, it's a 30-minute walk to the train station kind of a thing. So not perfect because I'm still kind of nomadic, and anybody that lives out of a backpack can tell you it's difficult to set those habits and maintain them when you are literally changing frequently, but it's something that is on the forefront of my mind, and I have noticed a big difference. So I like to consider that a win. So yeah, I met my 3 goals. We have made it to the end of my recap video. Oh my goodness. So what's next for me? So right now, the end of December, I'm in Switzerland. I'll be in Switzerland for another about 2 more weeks. And then I am booked full time pet sitting until July of this year. So I'll be back in the US. I'll be in Minnesota. I have, I think, 3 different sits in California. I'll be spending a month in Rhode Island. I have a sit in southern Utah, Mississippi. And then I'll be spending my birthday up in Alaska in a different part than when I've been. And I'll be spending a couple weeks in South Carolina as well. So although I've been to like half of these places, they're sits that I really want to do, so I figured why not. I am in the process of job hunting. I still have my job, so I work as an AI trainer for a new program, but I want something that's a little bit more steady with better benefits and a place where I can see myself growing and developing. There's not a lot of growth and development right now at my current job. It's been working, it's been really great for what I'm doing, but I'm ready for something different. And I am right now, because I am nomadic, I do have to find something that is remote. At some point, I would like to settle back down somewhere. I am looking a little bit further east than where I've been, so we'll see where that ends up being. I have a couple places that I would like to be, but it might just depend on, you know, where I can get a job or what opportunities come my way. All right, and the last big update of what's coming next. I'm actually gonna be slowing down on producing these videos. So I started making videos when I was in Asia, and I wasn't behind a computer working. I was out exploring all day. So the couple hours that I would spend behind the computer making videos for my YouTube channel were exciting, were different because I hadn't been on my computer. Now that I'm on a computer every day during the week for hours on end, the thought of sitting and making videos and having to edit them for even more time on top of that is just not fun for me. Plus, I'm going to places that I've already been. Plus, it's just not as exciting for me anymore. That's not to say that I'm gonna stop. I'm just not going to be uploading a bunch, and the ones that I do might just be shorts. You might have noticed that, you know, I didn't vlog when I was in Nebraska. I didn't vlog when I was in New Hampshire or when I was in Missouri, but I'm still updating on social media. I'll still be uploading on Instagram and Facebook. It's just, I want to focus on other things right now, and thinking about filming videos is a lot of fun. It's a great way to capture things, but when you're doing everything by yourself and still trying to figure things out, it can be a little bit more challenging. And right now I want to put my energy towards other things. So thank you for following along. Thank you for watching these videos. These are a great journal for me. Hope you've caught up on where I've been and what I've been up to. I am looking forward to next week, where I am going to be marking off one of the things that has been on my bucket list and impossible list for a really long time. So stay tuned for that. It'll be on Instagram. I've got my Instagram information down below, and Facebook. I'll probably upload it here as well. Hope you have a happy new year, and until the next adventure.